Now we'll have a Dharma message from Rinpoche Fujimoto.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're observing our Eitai-kyo service. Eitai-kyo literally means, well, A means long or far off, Tai is generations, Kyo is sutras. So it means like, passing on the sutras for future generations into perpetuity. And this is a great idea that's been corrupted and twisted to fit human nature and our self-centered thinking. So it's really a good lesson tool in this way. But this is what we consider a minor-major service, as opposed to a major-major service or a major-minor service. But it's it's an important service, but it really does show us how we can distort things. The idea is great. The idea is great that we need to pass on this teaching and make the teachings available into future generations. And this is usually done by making donations, and which is a reality that we all need to face. In this day and age, we need money to keep going. But what happens a lot of times is that people think that by making the donations, they can keep the temple going. That's part of it. That's part of the story. And the reason that people used to make the donations, the original intention was that because the teachings mean something to you, you make a donation to make that same teachings available to future generations. Right? This is good. But then people got lazy and they twisted things around, so because they don't want to take care of services for their grandparents or great-grandparents and things like that, they make a donation and said, you take care of it for us. So it gets twisted. It gets twisted. Long ago, toward the beginning of my career as a minister, I was asked to do a 100th year memorial service. And at first, this shocked me, most of the time, well, for those of you who may not be familiar, our tradition has it so that after a person passes away, after the funeral and such, we have services, like 49 days, and then like the first year, 3rd annual, 7th annual, 13th, 17th, 25th, 33rd, and so on. And they're annual memorial services, and people get confused a lot of times because the first year, and then you have the 3rd annual, right? And they say, Japanese count differently and things like that, but it's actually, the funeral itself is considered to be the 1st annual service. And then the 2nd annual service is what we call the 1st year service. Apparently, the ancient traditions didn't like even numbers, and especially the number 2, so they call it the 1st year service. So when, it becomes a 1st year service. Then you get back on track with the 3rd annual service, right? And then you have the 7th annual, the 13th annual, and the 17th annual, and such. So this means that, we make an effort to get together at these major services, but it means that something is held every year, right? So whether you go to the cemetery, go to the gravesite, go in front of your family altar, you're supposed to do something every year. And but on the occasions of the major services, you make an effort to get together. The families make an effort to get together. And again, these memorial services, we always tend to think we're having this service for grandpa or grandma or somebody, but it's really the other way around. They're having the service for us. Right? If it weren't for that service going on, if it weren't for that person, people wouldn't get together. They wouldn't get together. And this is the part of it that needs to be explained and taught. Right? To think that you can do something for a person that passed away, even a year ago, is pretentious. Right? This is human ego. You couldn't do what you wanted to do for a person while they were alive. To think that you can do anything for them after they passed away is ridiculous. Right? It's ridiculous. But the services are held because they bring us together to give us an opportunity to reflect on those causes and conditions that make us who we are. Those people and the events in that life that make us who we are. So, again, this needs to be communicated to people. And because of this 100th year memorial service, 100th annual memorial service, which happened 99 years after a person passed away, this meant, the one that did it, he was about, the one that asked for the service to be held was like 75, and he was a grandson. But he had never met the grandfather, right? But he was taught by his parents that this should be done. And that, and it was, the importance of doing so was communicated to him, right? How they did it, I'm not sure, but, it was held. So he brought his children, his grandchildren, so the person that passed away, his great-great-grandchildren and such, were all gathered for this service, right? And this is the important part, to pass on the teaching so that it's important and alive in your life. Just making a donation because you're too lazy to do services and communicate it to the children doesn't work. Right? We make donations in memory of those close to us. And those donations made in memory of those that are close to us are supposed to be made because the teachings meant something to them. The teachings mean something to us. It's not because you're too lazy to do services yourself, right? And one of the expressions that often comes out in our sutras, it talks about manifestations of merit when they describe the features of the Pure Land. And I've gone over this a number of times. I'm sure some of you have heard me talk about it before. But the features of the Pure Land are all considered to be manifestations of merit. And at first this seems kind of weird. Because the teachings mean something, these features manifest themselves. This is kind of contrary to logical thinking in regular terms. But when we really think about it, we look at the altar itself. This too is an example of manifestation of merit. Because of what the teachings meant to the artisans, they wanted to make the features based on what they read in the sutras as nice as they can. Okay? And then those pioneer members of the temple wanted to make our altar area as nice as they can. So, because of their feelings toward the teachings. So that, again, this becomes a manifestation of merit. All of these things, the temple itself is a manifestation of merit because of what people felt towards the teachings. They wanted a temple. They wanted to make it as nice as possible. They wanted to make it available to others. So these are all manifestations of merit. And we need donations to make these things possible, but to make it in memory of those for whom the teachings were special and meaningful, to keep those teachings available for future generations is the original intent of the service. Because the teachings meant something to those dear to each of us, a donation was made so future generations can have those same teachings available to them, so we can keep the altar looking nice, so we can have the facilities, so we can have the materials. And this is something that's important to communicate. But at the same time, the other side of us, because we tend to get lazy, it's a lot easier not thinking about things, not pursuing things ourselves, not really understanding things. You can just make things up and explain things as being, superstition or stuff like that. So instead of making an effort to understand the teachings, people thought, well, it's too much hassle going to the temple. We'll just make a donation, a sizable donation now, and then they can have the services for grandma or grandpa, and they'll take care of that, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. This is not the intent. This is the way a lot of people look at it. Some people make sizable donations for the Eitai-kyo. And it's not that it's not appreciated, but we're deviating from the intent, right? We're deviating from the intent. There's a number of problems when we think of having services held for the memories of those that have passed away. Like I mentioned earlier, this is pretentious, right? To think we can do something for those that have passed away is ridiculous. We have to remember that it's those that have passed away that come back to bring us, to show us reality. They're the cause that we get together and show us the reality of our lives, to show us what's important in our life. As human beings, ministers will get frustrated with you. We'll explain things, and if it doesn't sink in, we'll get mad. We're going to give up. But those people that have gone, because they're part of that infinite compassion, they keep bringing you back. This is one of the reasons we have all of these services going on and on and on, right? They keep bringing you back because they haven't given up hope. Their compassion is such, their love is such, that they don't give up on us. I see some heads nodding in agreement and stuff like that, but the reality is, 10 minutes after you leave, you're going to forget 85% of what I said. Again, that would make me frustrated. But those that have gone before don't get frustrated because they're part of that great compassion. They keep bringing you back. They keep pointing these realities out to us. They keep pointing out that which we know, but we choose to ignore because it's more convenient that way. Right? Services are, again, the deceased bringing us together to reflect on our lives and the people and events that make that life possible, so that we can truly come to understand and appreciate how fragile this human life is, how grateful we should be for having the things that we do have. Right? One example of how deeply you can come to be, to come to understand and appreciate things is a long time ago, I went to go visit this old woman who had her leg amputated because she, had problems with diabetes. And I was worried about how to cheer her up, when I go visit her and stuff like that. And, an active woman she was old now then, but then she had been active and did a lot of things, and to have had her leg amputated, the first thing she said to me, when I asked her, how things were going, she said, "At least I can complain." And this is a very Buddhistic way of looking at things. The very fact that you can complain is something that you should be grateful for, right? That means you're alive. That, you have things that bother you. That means that you're still active, in many ways. So, at least I can complain. To be able to understand and appreciate things so deeply that you can make a statement like that is to understand life, to understand Buddhism. And this is the intent of the Eitai-kyo. It's not that by throwing money at it, you can guarantee that the temple continues. No. Unless you have a purpose, unless the teachings mean something to you, there really isn't anything worth keeping, worth passing on. You have to make that value something for yourself. And then, if you have the ability, the capability, then make the donation. because the teachings mean something to you. Right? Reverend Sakamoto compared it to, earlier for the Dharma School session, compared it to like Halloween candy that you keep. Right? After you get your Halloween candy, just keeping it doesn't do any good. You know. You have to eat it. You have to enjoy it. You have to come to appreciate it. This is something that we all need to do. It's up to each of us who find that teaching meaningful to make it alive and vital. And then that makes it worth passing on. We don't want to pass on something that we don't care about. We won't pass on that which we don't care about. You may pass on some distorted version of it, but unless it means something to you, unless that teaching really makes you understand and appreciate human life, really, so that you can see how grateful you should be for waking up with a sore back in the morning, or complaining about your eyes, being out of focus at the end of the day because you've been working so hard or reading so hard. All of these types of things too are things that we should be grateful for. To be able to wake up with a sore back means that you got up. There's no guarantee of that. To have been so busy at work that your eyes are out of focus means that you have a job. Those are things that we shouldn't be taking for granted. The things that we take for granted in life are usually the most important. To be able to learn that gratitude, how to express that gratitude, how to live that gratitude is what we need to learn. Once we learn that, then the Eitai Kyo will naturally come about. We will pass this on to future generations because it is alive, because it is real, because it means something to each and every one of us. Okay, thank you.